Welcome back to Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt. Before we get into this, I would just like to mention we are approaching 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are tuning into the YouTube show, make sure to leave a subscription because it would mean so much if you do like this podcast. If you're listening to it on Spotify, make sure to come check us out on YouTube, as once again, we are getting to that 1,000 mark on YouTube. Okay, now getting into this. The Minnesota Vikings are in desperate need of an X factor. The Minnesota Vikings throughout the first 3 weeks have not lived up to my expectations on offense. Now, this is a great start to the season. Minnesota Vikings 2-1 in the division, first in the division right now. 2-0 in the divisional games, 2-0 at home. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings had a great start to the 2022 season. We just got humiliated on a Monday Night Football game that still a lot of us have not recovered from. With that being said, the Minnesota Vikings have a lot to improve going forward before we can consider ourselves competitors in the NFC. The reason why I say that the Minnesota Vikings need an X factor on offense is simply because this offense has not lived up to my expectations in any way, shape, or form. Looking at this Minnesota Vikings offense, we are loaded when it comes to playmakers. Justin Jefferson being one of the best receivers in his position, Adam Thielen being arguably the best receiver over the age of 30, and Dalvin Cook still cooking. Looking at the Minnesota Vikings right now, we are ranked statistically in a lot, not where we want to be sitting at. We are 21st in yards of offense and 16th in points. I mean, this is looking statistically like an average to below average offense. And you can give a lot of this due to the opponents that we have faced. I mean, Green Bay's offense, Green Bay's defense, great. Eagles defense, amazing. Detroit Lions defense, show some respect to the Lions this year. I mean, looking at this can be due to the opponents that we have faced, but all in all, there is no excuse for why we should be ranked this low in these categories. Now, you can blame this to a lot of different people. You can blame this to Kirk Cousins. You can blame this to our play calling. At the end of the day, the Minnesota Vikings should not be this low in a lot of statistical categories. On top of this, the Minnesota Vikings, in 23% of their drives, have been 3 and out. This should not be possible with the Vikings team that we have. We have an improved offensive line, a much better play caller, and great playmakers on offense. And in my opinion, the best big three in offense. You cannot show me a better playmaking trio than this right here in Minnesota, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook, who make arguably the best trio in all of football. However, it has shown throughout the first 3 weeks this trio can be shut down. Justin Jefferson in back-to-back weeks has been contained by the opposing defenses. The Eagles playing Darius Slay man-to-man coverage with a safety over the top. Lions must have watched that game and did the exact same thing, with Jeff Okudah having a breakout season, being one-on-one with Justin Jefferson in a safety over the top. Credit to the Detroit Lions and Philadelphia Eagles defenses, because I did not believe that you could shut down Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is an absolute monster and the focal point of this offense, meaning that he's the focal point of every defense playing this offense, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks. This opened a path to Adam Thielen having the biggest day of this season so far. KJ Osborn have arguably the biggest day of his career. Dalvin Cook was going off until obviously he went down with his injury. Now, throughout the first 3 games, we saw that we need someone else to step up. I didn't think we would. I thought Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook would light up every single defense that they played, and it just wasn't the case, or it hasn't been the case 3 weeks in. We need somebody to step up, because going 3 and out on 23% of your drives should not be possible with the number of playmakers we have on offense, and KOC knows this. KOC knows this because in the third game, he started to move the ball around. He knows this because in the third game, same goes for Kirk Cousins, started targeting other players on this offense, and that's where we go to the Minnesota Vikings X-factors. Throughout the first 3 weeks, KJ Osborn has seen 14 targets while being on the field 73% of the snaps. Johnny Munt, 8 targets, 50%. Irv Smith Jr., Ben Ellipson, and so forth. KJ Osborn is the person we want to mention here because he's the most likely X factor on this Vikings offense. Defenses are designed to stop Justin Jefferson. As we've seen the last 2 weeks, it can be done. You can double team Justin Jefferson and he can be contained. This opens a path for another guy. Adam Thielen, still a stud, but we need somebody else on offense. We need somebody else for Kirk to throw the ball to. Kirk knows this, KOC knows this, and now the Minnesota Vikings entire offense should know this going forward, as KJ Osborn stepping up into the fourth quarter led a path for the Vikings to have a comeback game against the Detroit Lions, and expect to see KJ Osborn get a bigger workload going forward. Irv Smith Jr., another player to mention here, a player who has been getting a fair amount of targets, 16 targets throughout the first 3 games while playing less than 50% of the snaps. A lot of this is due to Irv Smith Jr. playing majority on passing downs. However, that needs to stop, as going into 3 weeks in, Irv Smith Jr. has been very unreliable. He is an excellent athlete. He gets open, but he doesn't finish. He doesn't come down with the ball. He has less than 50% catch percentage on this season so far, which should not be possible from a tight end, where most of your routes, you are left open. Irv Smith Jr., time to kick it back on the Irv Smith Jr. targets. I really like that we gave him a shot. Irv had a terrible career up to this point due to injuries, so giving him a shot was great. Time to kick it back on the workload that you're giving Irv Smith Jr., as these other guys have been very reliable. Johnny Munt and Ben Ellipson. 2 names to mention here, Vikings X-factors. These guys have come down with every target they've had this far into the season so far. Johnny Munt, Ben Ellipson. Basically the same player at this point. Great blockers, great hands. Not great athletes. And for that reason, I would not expect that they would continue to get more targets going forward. However, you could see them maybe on a 3rd down. We run a passing play with them or something like that. Just imagine if you could take Irv Smith Jr. and combine him with Johnny Munt, you would have Travis Kelce. I mean, Irv Smith Jr. is a freak of an athlete. He gets open. Johnny Munt, reliable catcher. He comes down with anything in his catch radius. Great blocker. You would basically have Travis Kelce. Thing is, you cannot do this in 2022. Maybe going forward, you can combine talents, but as of right now, it's not looking like the case at all. Irv Smith Jr., kick it back on the workload that you're giving him. KJ Osborn, up his targets, because this man is a beast. This is a bulky speedster who has been tearing up defenses the last 2 seasons. And it's so great to see, because after KJ Osborn's rookie season, I said this guy's going to go down as a bust. Why was I wrong? Because even though he had a terrible rookie season, he was inactive by the end of his rookie season, despite being a 5th-round draft pick. Something happened mentally in this guy where he flipped a switch into year 2, and now in year 3 is looking like he could get a contract extension after this season, and KJ and JJ can make the future receiving duo of this offense, and that's so great to see. That 2020 draft class was so great for the Minnesota Vikings. Not only do we have JJ and KJ starting on offense, but Ezra Cleveland from the 2020 draft class has also been a beast starting at left guard for us, and it's so great to see. That aside, like I mentioned, KJ Osborn, I believe that he should get a bigger workload. Johnny Munt, Ben Ellipson, reliable guys. Irv Smith Jr., please kick it back on the targets that you're giving this guy. Next up, our guy, CJ Ham. Hammer time all day long. We are the biggest CJ Ham fans on this channel, on this show, on this podcast, because CJ Ham, every time you put CJ Ham on the field, the Minnesota Vikings make a play. There is not a play where CJ Ham will be on the field and he won't impact the play. Running play, lead blocker for Dalvin Cook, lead blocker for Alexander Madison, passing play. He can stop the blitz, help out Kirk Cousins. No matter what the Vikings run on offense, CJ Ham is there to make a play, which is why going into this offseason, anybody that said that CJ Ham should not make the roster was out of their mind. And CJ Ham has been the Vikings X-factor in the past. Up to this point, 4 targets, 15% of the snaps on offense. Not surprised to see that CJ Ham hasn't been given a bigger workload. Obviously, it's because Kevin O'Connell doesn't utilize fullback like the Minnesota Vikings have in the past under a Kevin Stefanski offense, where it was a lot of I formation and 2 tight end sets, and that's technically why Stephon Diggs did not like playing for this offense, because 90% of the times he was running out there as a decoy. Looking at it, 2022 Minnesota Vikings, this offense needs to be more explosive, and this goes without saying, but the Minnesota Vikings offense has to do better going forward. I mean, there is no excuse for why the Vikings should be 21st in yards of offense when we have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, add KJ Osborn to the mix, add our improved offensive line, who has done a tremendous job, or has done as good of a job as we could have asked up to this point. Minnesota Vikings offense, you can only go up from here. Things can change going forward. offensively and especially defensively. We're going to get into this more. I'm not as surprised that the Vikings secondary has been this bad. I'm just really surprised in the Vikings offense being not meeting my expectations up to this point. So for that reason, we need an X factor. Let me know what y'all think.